In the waning days of the 19th century, amidst the industrial haze of England's bustling shipyards, the SS Nemesis was born. The ship, a looming ironclad steamer, was constructed with an unprecedented blend of elegance and power. However, beneath the polished brass and gleaming decks lay a history shrouded in darkness and mystery. The construction of the Nemesis began in 1889 at the famed Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. The shipbuilders, renowned for their craftsmanship, were perplexed by the ship's uncanny demands. Orders were received from an anonymous patron known only as Mr. Blackwood, whose instructions were as cryptic as they were precise. Workers whispered of strange symbols etched into the ship's keel, claiming they were unlike anything they had seen before. These symbols, they said, gave the vessel an aura of malevolence. As the ship neared completion, a series of bizarre accidents plagued the construction. Tools vanished, workers fell ill, and shadows seemed to dance along the decks even in broad daylight. The once thriving shipyard grew quiet with fear, and a chilling legend began to take root. The SS Nemesis was cursed. The final nail in the coffin came when Mr. Blackwood mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind only a cryptic note: "She is ready." On a fog-laden night in 1891, the SS Nemesis set sail on her maiden voyage from Liverpool to New York. Captain Jonathan Hawke, a seasoned mariner with a reputation for bravery, was at the helm. Despite the ominous rumours surrounding the ship, Hawke dismissed them as superstitious nonsense. The crew, a motley collection of seafarers, shared his scepticism, though a palpable tension hung in the air. The first few days at sea were uneventful, but as the Nemesis cut through the Atlantic waves, strange occurrences began to unsettle the crew. Whispering voices echoed through the empty halls, and shadowy figures were glimpsed out of the corner of the eye, only to vanish when confronted. The ship's compass spun wildly, defying the laws of navigation. Captain Hawke, determined to maintain order, assured his crew that it was merely a malfunction. One stormy night, the ship's first mate, Elias Granger, reported seeing a ghostly apparition on the deck. Described as a woman in tattered, dripping wet clothes, she stared with hollow eyes before dissolving into the mist. The crew, now gripped by fear, began to whisper of the Sea Witch, a spectral figure said to haunt cursed vessels. Hawke, though shaken, maintained his stance that it was all a trick of the light and the storm. As the days turned into weeks, the SS Nemesis seemed to take on a life of its own. Crew members reported feeling watched, their every move scrutinized by unseen eyes. Mysterious knocking sounds echoed from the bowels of the ship, and the temperature in certain areas would suddenly plummet, leaving frost on the metal surfaces. Captain Hawke's steadfast resolve began to waver. His nights were plagued by vivid nightmares of drowning in a sea of darkness, pulled under by cold, grasping hands. These dreams became increasingly real, seeping into his waking hours. The line between reality and delusion blurred, and Hawke found himself questioning his sanity. The crew, too, was not spared. Paranoia and mistrust festered among the men. Arguments broke out over trivial matters, and several sailors reported seeing their own doppelgangers performing menial tasks on the ship. One particularly harrowing incident involved a young deckhand who claimed to have been attacked by his own reflection in a mirror. The boy, pale and trembling, was found with deep scratches across his face, muttering incoherently about the other side. As the Nemesis approached the midpoint of her journey, disaster struck. On a calm moonlit night, the ship's lookout sounded the alarm. A massive iceberg loomed ahead. Despite the crew's frantic efforts to steer clear, the Nemesis seemed to defy their commands, heading straight for the icy behemoth. A sickening crunch echoed through the ship as it struck the iceberg, causing a gaping tear in the hull. Panic erupted among the crew and passengers. Lifeboats were lowered, but in the chaos many were lost to the freezing waters. Captain Hawke, desperate to save his ship, remained on board with a handful of loyal crew members. As the Nemesis began to list, a strange calm settled over the remaining men. They reported seeing spectral figures gliding through the mist, whispering words of comfort and doom. In the final moments before the ship slipped beneath the waves, a haunting melody filled the air, an eerie lullaby that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the ship. Those who survived the ordeal would later recount the chilling refrain, though none could identify its origin. The loss of the SS Nemesis sent shockwaves through maritime circles. Search parties scoured the area where the ship was last seen, but no trace was found. The official report cited the iceberg collision as the cause, but whispers of the ship's cursed nature persisted. Families of the lost crew and passengers were left with little more than unanswered questions and unrelenting grief. Years passed, and the legend of the Nemesis grew. Fishermen reported seeing the ghostly outline of an ironclad steamer in the fog, always accompanied by the same haunting melody. Ships passing through the area experienced strange phenomena, compasses spinning, sudden drops in temperature, and inexplicable apparitions. In 1912, a deep-sea expedition led by marine archaeologist Dr. Amelia Thornton set out to locate the wreck of the SS Nemesis. Equipped with the latest technology, the team hoped to uncover the truth behind the ship's disappearance. As they descended into the depths, their instruments began to malfunction, and a sense of unease gripped the crew. When they finally located the wreck, they were struck by its eerie preservation. The ship, encrusted with barnacles and coral, seemed almost untouched by time. As Dr. Thornton and her team explored the twisted remains, they uncovered artifacts that defied explanation, objects that belonged to different eras and cultures, all somehow tied to the ship. Dr. Thornton's discovery of an ancient weathered journal in the captain's quarters provided the final piece of the puzzle. The journal, written in a trembling hand, chronicled Captain Hawke's descent into madness and his belief that the ship was possessed by a malevolent force. According to Hawke, the symbols etched into the keel were part of an ancient ritual meant to bind a powerful sea spirit to the vessel. The journal detailed how Mr. Blackwood, a practitioner of dark arts, had sought to harness the spirit's power for his own gain. However, the ritual went awry, trapping the spirit within the ship and cursing all who sailed upon her. The final entry, written just before the ship's fateful collision, spoke of a desperate plan to break the curse by sinking the Nemesis. As Dr. Thornton's team surfaced with the journal, they were met with a fierce storm that seemed to come out of nowhere. The ship rocked violently, and the haunting melody that had accompanied the Nemesis's demise echoed through the air. In a moment of sheer terror, the team watched as ghostly figures rose from the water, their hollow eyes fixed upon the journal. Realizing the danger, Dr. Thornton cast the journal into the sea, and the storm ceased as abruptly as it had begun. The figures vanished, and a calm settled over the waters. The team returned to shore, forever changed by their encounter with the supernatural. The legend of the SS Nemesis lives on, a chilling reminder of the thin veil between our world and the unknown. Mystery enthusiasts continue to speculate about the ship's true fate, but one thing remains certain. Some secrets are best left undisturbed.